It's time to look at what the front pages are saying and bring you in-depth analysis of those big stories. I'm being joined by Dr. Constance Ikoku, who is a Rise News analyst. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
A very good morning to you, Adesuwa. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Great. Good to be here. We have with us to discuss the headlines today, Mr. Chuks Akunna. He is the Executive Director of Authority newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. LCCI, that is Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, says that parameters, assumptions for 2025 proposed budget overambitious, fragile. Do Tinubu working to lift Nigerians out of poverty? Presidency, Obasanjo not ideal leader to emulate, unfit to speak on good governance. G20 leaders inaugurate End Hunger and Poverty Global Alliance. Governors threatening us over Tinubu's tax reform bills, House member alleges. Now, Oyedele says no region is targeted on the tax reform. Deputy spokesman of the House of Representatives, Philip Agbese, says some governors have threatened to deny federal lawmakers return tickets in 2027 if they do not withdraw their support for the president's tax reform bills. There are 4 bills currently in the National Assembly for consideration, and this has generated intense reactions. Well, it's taken another dimension now, talking about blackmail. Withdraw your support or you don't get the 2027 ticket. That's interesting, Chuks. What do you think about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Yes, very interesting if you ask me. And but several puzzling questions because the deputy spokesman of the House did not tell us what party members that were involved and what governors were, if they are of the Labour Party, if they are of the PDP, of the ruling APC. And don't also forget that Agbese himself, has been having a running battle with his own state governor, Father Alea. So it's not impossible that he also has been threatened by his governor. I don't know if he speaks for his colleagues, from other parties. But definitely, this is a very, very familiar route, if you ask me, since 1999, where governors, always hold the aces in their states.
I mean, there has been a lot of rampants. It's not just the deputy spokesman. A lot of governors have voiced their opinion, northern governors, other governors from other states, saying that this bill, there are 4 bills that are being considered. They say they need to be withdrawn. However, the president has said that is not going to happen. They have to wait for it to come up for debate. Then during the debate, some clauses can be amended, but the governors are, coming together to make sure that this does not happen. Who is going to blink at this one? What do you think?
I'm here for all of this.
Yes.
Who's going to blink first? Because it shows that politics and regional interests are intertwined in Nigeria, whether we like it or not. And you've aptly said it all. These are executive bills. The president, the National Economic Council, made up of governors of the 36 states and chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima and other government officials co-opted, including the CBN governor, at their last meeting, were vehement, asking the president to go and withdraw his executive bills. The president responded and said, go to the court of public hearing at the National Assembly and make your inputs. What does this mean? 19 governors, 19 states of the northern region are now telling their lawmakers, I think anybody who reads politics very well knows that this is all political, have now told their lawmakers to withdraw their interest in this. Whether they have said it outrightly or not is the thing that we do not know. But from their body language, from what the NEC has said, representing the governors, they do not want this bill to pass. Now, we know that tax reforms are critical for the country, but the road to ensuring that they are passed is nothing but smooth. Yes. So, I'm interested in who blinks first in all of this.
But, this bill has far-reaching consequences, far-reaching impact when it's, passed. So it is normal for people to react to it and to say, what is in this bill? How does that affect us? Does that affect us negatively or positively? And some are saying that, it's the, Southwest Axis taking over, and, some are even using the word, they want to colonize the North. Chuks, final thoughts on this?
Yes. You can't blame people for feeling the way they feel. That's the truth. And But, one also has to commend the president, because I had thought that when they rejected that the president was going to tuck his tail between his legs. But the president said, no, this will not die, let's go and test the waters. And it's going to be very, very, very interesting because we all know that in Nigeria, the president is very, very powerful, especially in his political party. If the governors want to deny their members, National Assembly members tickets, the president can also win in and say, no, these guys work for me. They're able to deliver, so I'll protect them.
I'm sorry, I know we need to move on, but I mean, this is troubling.
Yeah.
That it has gotten to the extent where governors are now threatening lawmakers with return tickets for 2027.
Right.
It's that bad.
They're talking about money, so that's why it's serious.
That the government will decide whether you will return to the National Assembly or not.
Let's move on to Daily Sun this morning. Nigeria's foreign debt servicing soars to 3.8 trillion naira in 8 months. FG inaugurates Council for Protection of Critical Assets Infrastructure. The body to take up this important work is called Coordinating Council for Critical National Assets and Infrastructure Protection, FCCNAIP, so long. This was inaugurated by the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu. It consists of head of security agencies and other relevant stakeholders and chaired by the NSA. I mean, for some time we've been facing serious challenges as regards destruction and vandalization of assets or infrastructure across the country, from train stations to power lines to telecoms infrastructure and the rest of them. I mean, it is a real challenge, Chooks.
Yes, and it's not just about telecoms and power lines. Even here in the FCT, you see people knock down, and several states, you see public infrastructure, people, you have street lights, you have traffic lights, people run over these lights and, they go scot-free. I remember when Donald Duke was governor of Cross River State, if you hit any of these towers in Calabar, the person even dies. They will hold on to the person's corpse, until the family, yes, until the family, because it's public works, you see several streets in Abuja, you spend so much money, installing this, and then people knock this, and nobody appears to care. It's public money. So if you are reckless with your driving, it's not just people who take up arms to go and destroy power lines, Even here in the FCT, you run down traffic lights, you run down street lights, you should be held to account for this damage.
I mean, the effect of this devastation, whether you talk about the oil sector, is there for all to see, and especially telecoms now, and then train stations. I remember it said that people go and tamper with the rail lines, and that is a problem, and cannot this way it cannot be left alone. They have to do something about it. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yes, it makes no sense why government will spend your money, because it's public funds, and put infrastructure in place, and then you go to destroy it. For me, that's not poverty. I think it's ignorance, illiteracy, and just deliberate sabotage. Very recently, you recall that a large portion of the North was in darkness for such a long time. That was as a result of vandalization of power lines. But, the question I have is, we have agencies already in charge for protecting our infrastructure. For instance, particularly the NSCDC. I recall that's their primary work. So what exactly is this council going to do differently from what the NSCDC is supposed to do? I know this council is to be chaired by the NSA himself. Perhaps, maybe he's bringing on board expertise and information that we do not know. But I just wonder, when we create these additional councils, do they really fix the problems?
Well, it says that it's going to pull people or officials from all the different relevant agencies into this and make it a focus. Whereas before they were working separately, the sense is that they now have to work together to tackle this directly.
Hallelujah.
So let's see how that goes. Hallelujah, indeed. New Telegraph. New Telegraph. Customers' rights don't pay for 40 obsolete meter replacement. NEC tells Nigerians. Senate begins probe of 105.6 billion naira financial infractions by FG agencies. And cooking gas defies FG's intervention, hits 1,500 naira per kilogram. The federal government has been making efforts in the past to make sure that it reduces the cost of cooking gas. It's called liquefied petroleum gas. But this does not seem to be working. Now it's 1,500. So you have petrol on one side, and then you have this on one side. It's just slapping us from every corner, left, right, and center, Chooks.
Yes, Nigeria belongs to this group, called building what you call the Great Green Wall from Dakar to Djibouti. And we're spending billions of dollars. We have the National Great Green Wall project. We're spending so much money to reforest our depleting forest. And because of that, because there's so much campaign about, like we should stop using firewood, they're going to make gas cheaper. At the time, government even tried to subsidize, they didn't try. Government subsidized kerosene heavily. They were selling kerosene for 50 naira per liter and selling other products for as much as 1,000 naira. But what did Smart Alex do? They started adulterating diesel. They started adding kerosene. They would buy cheap kerosene, add it to aviation fuel. They buy cheap kerosene, they add it to diesel. So government became very frustrated and just had to, deregulate kerosene. I think the same thing is happening to the liquefied petroleum gas. Government a few weeks ago announced that from November 1, there's a few weeks ago that from November 1, starting November 1, that they will stop the export of LPG to see if this will help to crash. But you see no difference. So it shows that there are fifth columnists who are at work. No matter what you try to do as a government, there are people who are smarter than you who actually sabotage these efforts. And that's exactly what's happening. Because before now, people had said because Nigeria was exporting cooking gas. So that if we stopped exporting, that there would be surplus and that the price was going to crash. But it's not happening.
That's why when I went to Lagos, I was so surprised that the streets were empty, literally. And I was asking the taxi man, what is going on in Lagos? Is it possible that the roads can be empty in Lagos? And he said, Madam, by the time you fill your tank, you run 3 errands. Lagos distances are, farther apart. You run 3 errands and your tank is empty. No one will advise you to sit at home. So you have the cooking gas on one hand, you have the petrol on one hand, and in the other hand, and it's unbelievable.
That's the Lagos I want to see. Lagos without the crazy traffic. But you're right. I mean, you now have to do things, that you have to train yourself to do things moderately as it's going. This shows a string of challenges. It shows that our local production is not yet up to par, and that the majority of the gas we consume is imported, as experts have been reporting, even in this report we're talking about. And then you ask yourself, what about the local refineries, such as the Dangotes and others? Are they getting enough support? Is it not an irony that despite the trillions of cubic feet of gas we have reserved as a country, we still go through this? So something is obviously wrong. But again, why is it that all the efforts put by government doesn't seem to be working? And, I might want to align with Chooks this morning about the fifth column, because it doesn't make sense. You've stopped importation. You talk about pricing. I remember the Minister of State Gas talked about the pricing framework, that they should stop putting prices in relation to international prices because they are produced, the gas is from here. If that has not worked, then you wonder what's going on.
Well, a gas country, we are a gas country. Indeed. Without available gas, not harnessing it to the full potential. Let's look at The Guardian this morning. In The Guardian, 34 states ditch UBE grants as unused funds surpass 135 billion naira. Chemical industry says 28 companies exited since January. FIRS boss makes case for tax bills as FG calms governors on reform. Still on that tax bill. And then Presidency berates Obasanjo for criticizing successor, says ex-president not an ideal leader to emulate. Special advisor to the president on public communication and orientation, Sunday Dare, says Nigeria's democracy suffered setbacks under Obasanjo. He also said successive governments have tried to rectify the damage done by the ex-president. Well, war of words right there. The president's attack dogs are tackling former President Olusegun Obasanjo. The real question will be, in terms of results and overarching or overall well-being, which administration fared better? Or performed better, Chooks?
I think it's most unfair to compare. It's like comparing yourself to your parents.
But they're already comparing. They're saying he did terribly.
Exactly. But we should also understand that life is a journey, not a destination. So nobody will say he was the best president or the worst president. But that said, you spoke about UBEC, 34 states refusing to access their funds. For those who don't know, federal government every month, there's this money that are allocated to states to help education. And this was the creation of former President Obasanjo, who was worried by the menace of out-of-school children in 2004. He went through National Assembly and established UBEC. And the aim was to take out-of-school children off the streets. But as we speak, we have more out-of-school children in Nigeria than several countries of the world. And you ask yourself what really is going on. And when I read that report this morning, I was drawn to tears because I'm from the Southeast state. I'm from the Southeast. The Southeast has the least number of states. And interestingly, the Southeast has the highest number of unassessed funds. So you ask yourself, is it Tinubu or APC, actually marginalizing the Southeast? I think the Southeast has only one APC governor. But then, if there's money for you to actually draw from, it's like the guy in the Bible who, all he needed to do was to go and wash, River Jordan, and he refused when the prophet of God asked him to go wash. Naaman. Just bring the matching grant.
Right.
Just raise your money. If you raise $1 billion, you get $1 billion from federal government. But even the states are not doing that. So today, Obasanjo can look back and point to those things he did as president. That's the truth. No doubt about that. But then people also agree that times were different. And like President Tinubu said, Obasanjo's democratic credentials were nothing to write home about.
Okay, so let's look at Daily Sun. Daily Trust, actually, Daily Trust. Auditor General uncovers 3.4 trillion naira fraud in MDAs. This fraud or infractions, as reported by other papers, says that it was contained in a report of 2021 report audit of non-compliance of internal control weaknesses in the MDAs. For instance, 2.09 trillion naira of that amount was incurred through the failure of 8 agencies to recover outstanding government revenue with the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Company Limited. And the rest of that, is just a maze of mess everywhere regarding the MDAs at Desua.
Indeed, it's not new. Sometimes you look at these figures and you ask yourself, are we truly a poor country? And why do we go borrowing when we have all of these funds that leak all the time? It's not surprising. Was it not the same office that the Auditor General himself was found with? Was it 8 billion, 80 billion at some point? But what will happen to this report that they've uncovered? Would people with heads roll?
Yes.
Would there be consequences, or it would just be play, repeat? It's mind-boggling.
Okay, let's look at the international headlines for you. We'll begin with Daily Graphic in Ghana. So in Daily Graphic this morning, it's all about illegal mining. Says ban surface mining, statesman to government. AG prosecutes 15 illegal mining cases. Sign on to Africa Responsible Mineral Sourcing Initiative. That is for mineral-rich African countries. The overarching goal here is to stop the devastation of the environment and pollution of water bodies. Let's move on to cities in South Africa. 1 in 3 women are abused. The first South African national gender-based violence study finds that 35.5% of women aged 18 and older have been victims of sexual and physical abuse, and some 10% of sexual violence. The bad news is that the government is yet to take adequate steps, they say, to halt this scourge. So there's call for action there. Then Daily Mirror this morning, Ukraine war, stammer defiant. We can't allow Putin to win. Kremlin spokesman accuses Washington of reckless escalation. While the war between Russia and Ukraine is about to enter another dimension, Ukraine has been lobbying for the use of those missiles against Russia. U.S. President Joe Biden finally caved in to this demand, and the UK says it will follow suit, in these footsteps. Dangerous times ahead, Chooks.
Yes, I think one would imagine that because Democrats lost in the U.S., so they quickly, acceded to the demand of Ukraine. It's very interesting, and like you said, dangerous phase because we have 10,000 soldiers from North Korea that have gone to join their brothers, quote and unquote, in Russia. So, and then because they don't know what Trump's administration is going to look like, they're trying to see if they can actually use NATO countries like the UK to actually send missiles to allow Ukraine to use their missiles. But whether head or tail, from any angle you look at this, it's not good news for global peace.
Right.
It's not at all.
Okay. Finally, let's look at the Guardian UK, or the UK Guardian. More than 1 in 3 children in poverty in that country. Deprivation levels have risen to their highest in the 21st century in the United Kingdom, according to a report. The report found that the cost of living crisis has plunged 2 million or more people into severe hardship since 2019. More than 16 million people, or 24% of UK population, are defined as living in poverty. This is third world country status loading. It seems that the tables are turning.
When you're reading the story, I have to listen out to make sure you are not reading an African country in a UK paper. Yes, but this is the reality, and it's about to get worse with all the taxation that the Labour Party is imposing. Recently, even the inheritance tax on farmers. Farmers are saying this is going to be dangerous. You're going to cause unemployment, food crisis, and poverty. So they have it coming. We'll be watching and be reporting as as news unfolds.
Yes.
There. But unfortunately, that's the time we have this morning on Paper Review as well as Daybreak. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance Okoko, for reviewing the papers with us this morning, and our guest analyst for the day, Chuks Akunna. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant day. And that's all on Daybreak. It's a goodbye from me. But remember, up next is the morning show. I am Adesua Omoran. Goodbye.